Hello, I'm Elliott Johnson of Soul Nugget, and I'm today's host of the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. I have a super special guest today, Jared Pulliam from Lost Generation Brewing. He's here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and the topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. So first, I want to say visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get into the conversation in just a moment, but first we'll have this message.
Today's episode is brought to you by StompStickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with StompStickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting StompStickers.com. As an industry-leading keg management partner, Keg Logistics delivers premium stainless steel kegs with the flexibility you truly need. Whether you're kegging your first batch or scaling your distribution, choose the program that fits. Rent to own, flexible term leasing, or pay per fill. Get top quality kegs without massive upfront costs and terms that grow with you. Thousands of brewers, cider makers, and wineries trust Keg Logistics to keep production flowing. Head to keglogistics.com/allaboutbeer for your custom quote. Keg Logistics, your kegs, your choice. Shopping for organic malt? There's no need to pay a premium for imports. Gambrinus Malting has your organic brewing needs covered with a full lineup of certified organic malts, including Organic Pilsner, Pale, Munich Light, and Wheat. Crafted in British Columbia from the finest North American barley and wheat, Gambrinus organic malts deliver the performance you expect at domestic prices. For the organic malt you need at a price that'll make you smile, the answer is simple. Order Gambrinus from RahrBSG. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
All right, welcome. I'm pleased to have Jared Pulliam as my guest today. So I've known Jared for a while. He began his homebrew. He began brewing in his hometown of Washington, D.C. well over a decade ago. Constantly striving to learn more, moved out to California to brew with not only one of the biggest companies out there, Lagunitas Brewing Company, and quickly ascended to the ranks until he was overseeing all the production departments. But he was always dreaming of coming back home. So after years of making some of the best IPAs in the country, he and his wife returned to DC, planning to open up their own original concept. And I think I met Jared probably, I want to say almost 5 years ago. But in 2022, Lost Generation Brewing opened its doors in Northeast DC and immediately made a name for itself in the area. It's a great brewery. The design is super nice, 12 brick, skylights, and they focus on lagers and IPAs. So Jared makes the beer while his wife, the boss, Ann, runs the business, and their pup, Denali, tags along for all of it. So to this day, Lost Generation is known as one of the premier breweries in Washington, D.C., but Jared's desire to learn more and create even better lagers has never abated, constantly searching for the keys to perfect the perfect pint. So Jared, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Elliott, man. Good to hear you.
Yeah, good
Thanks
to see
for
you too,
having me.
man. Yeah, awesome, man. This is I'm honored to interview you,
I
man.
I am honored to be interviewed by you, sir.
Okay, so let's get into it, dude. Let's talk about your background in brewing. I mean, working in Lagunitas is crazy, but how did that even come about for you?
Yeah, it was so the DC is kind of a crazy beer market in that we didn't have our first commercial brewery here since Prohibition, that is, until 2011. So 2011, two breweries opened up in the city. One was DC Brown and one was Chocolate City.
Chocolate City, that's right.
Chocolate City, yes, yes, yes.
Throwback.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, and I'm honestly like, I mean, don't get me wrong, as DC born and raised, I understood the name, but like it was always hard working a festival, and I'd be pouring, and they'd be like, "So do you put chocolate in the beer?" And I'm like, "No, no, Chocolate City is a reference to DC's, minority population because we were the first minority majority city, and yeah, I mean, people would be looking at me and going, "Oh, I don't think you're allowed to say that." And I'm like, I didn't name the brewery. I just make beer here." But anyways, so I was working at Chocolate City, but DC was just so new at beer that like everyone was still kind of figuring it out. And once my wife gave me the green light, I mean, basically what I was doing at that time is I was working at the brewery at night and I was teaching during the day. So I'd shut down the classroom, take my papers. I'd be grading as I'm loudering, close down the brewery at, midnight after knocking out and cleaning, and then, be back at the classroom by 6 a.m. And eventually my wife said, no more, you're picking one. And she actually convinced me to take the one that pays a lot less money. So, I went into brewing, but we said, if I'm going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so we knew that, to expand our knowledge and to, do it right, we needed to go somewhere that, had been doing beer for a long time. And what better place than California? And yes, the beer that got me into it, man, was Lagunitas Hop Stupid. That's what got me to first start brewing. I was just so inspired by that beer. So I literally wrote the owner of Lagunitas a letter saying, I will sweep floors for you. I will mop for you if you promise me, if I do that well, one day you'll let me brew his beer. And then I got a call from Lagunitas, and they said, "When can you get out here?"
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And they
So
didn't
you,
even make me sweep the floors. They let me brew. Yeah,
they let you brew it, they let you slide by. Awesome,
I
man. So
know. How
like,
good was that? Yeah.
so how long were you there, and like, what was it like being coming from across the country? You're basically kind of switching careers, and then being able to learn from like somebody who's basically leading the institution, if you will, on the genre of IPA and some of those West Coast style beers. And do you incorporate that now with how you brew, or is anything that you picked up along the way?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it was insane doing it. I didn't even realize what I'd gotten into. So I mean, I'm going from a 3.5 barrel brew system that's in this, ramshackle spot next to the metro line here. You could hear the train go by, as you're sparging. And go out to California. And the day I arrive, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go over there, and have a beer, kind of incognito and just enjoy. I drive up in the parking lot, man, and the tank farm, these tanks are like, almost 3 stories tall. There's 36 of them out there in the tank farm. It's
Mm.
like looking at skyscrapers, and you're like, oh God, what did I get myself into? Like, this is a different world, and I gotta, yeah, I'm gonna have to up my game here. And no, I mean, but they were super cool. Everything was great. And quickly rose up the ranks there, and got to kind of do it all. And then was even in charge of like, hiring and training all the brewers in all the departments. And yeah, it was tremendous. It was amazing. But like the biggest takeaway, the thing that like I learned from that like I will never, I don't know how I could replace. It's the best lesson I learned is we would brew. So the brew house, man, it's 250 barrels, and we had an 80 barrel. And when we were at our peak, we were running both simultaneously. So I had 2 crews I was overseeing,
Oh wow.
running, the 250 and the 80 at the same time, 24 hours a day, 365. And but the point is like on that 250, every 2 hours and 40 minutes, a new IPA was, milling in, and, while another one was knocking out, and blah, 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 blah. We had 4 IPA, so there was 1,000 barrels in the system at a time, but that much beer being made that in, if I worked a 10-hour shift, I was making, 2 times more than I make here in a given year, just in a 10-hour day. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to do that, and for that beer to come out so consistently that every time someone opens a bottle, it's not like, oh, that's a good batch of IPA, that's a bad batch of IPA, that's just Lagunitas IPA, that's just Lagunitas little something something. that we could do that at that kind of consistency was the lesson that, I really learned. And seeing that kind of quality control and that adherence to making sure that the product is exactly the same for the consumer every single time was something that, like, I would have never learned if I'd kept basically pub brewing, and
Hmm.
I've never walked away from that. And that was like my biggest thing when I continued my career back here and then eventually opened up Lost Generation. Is it's all about quality, consistency, and then, if I'm calling this product this name and that name's been out before, then it's going to taste exactly like it did before.
Yeah, and I can say, man, I know we've worked together in the past prior to your opening launch, Jen. And I will say one thing I respect about you is that your attention to detail and your commitment to quality has always been like exceptional. And I just want to give you make sure you got your flowers, man, and make sure that you know that you're doing your thing.
Well, thank you, man. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
It was fun working with you and Soul Mega back in my Calvert days.
yeah. So okay, so you've left DC, you went to California, you've gained some of the institutional knowledge you need. What inspired you to start Lost Gen? Like, tell us more about like that whole story and like the branding of Lost Generation itself, how you came to the name, and what it means for you to have your stake in the city you're from.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the idea for having my own brewery, I feel all brewers have this, and it's such a foolhardy idea. But we early on in every brewer's career, they're like, yeah, but if I were doing this, one day when I have my own thing, I guess like every cook in the kitchen that really aspires probably thinks the same thing. Like, if it were my restaurant one day. But yeah, my wife and I, we had been just kind of secretly talking about it, just like as like a fun little like thing. Like, wouldn't it be cool? Her background is she just runs restaurants, so she's been GM of huge restaurants, artisanal restaurants, Michelin restaurants, etc. And I brewed beer, so it was always like, what if we teamed up and you ran front of house and I ran back of house? That would be cool. But we were never going to do it until we had our absolute bona fides. Which, again, being out in California, I mean, she got to work with some of the best restaurants, and I obviously worked with one of the biggest breweries. And we weren't going to come home to try to start our next step until we both felt absolutely 100% ready. And yeah, there was just this magical moment. Like, kind of one of the rules was there was this brewery out there that was making great beer. Man has won so many medals. The Revision Brewery is a shout out to him. Like, he makes great IPAs, and he's been making great IPAs since even before he opened up Revision. But one of the litmus tests Anne had was you have to be able to homebrew something that I think is better than a Revision in a blind taste test before we're willing to like stake our entire fortune, or not fortune, God, yeah, but our entire life savings into this dream. And it never happened until like one day I had to do a blind taste test, and she's like, now you're not even trying anymore. Like, this, it's obvious this one is the Revision and that one's you. Like, you got to work harder. And I was like, no, honey, you chose mine this time. And
Where
and
it's
that was the
like,
moment. And that was the moment. It was time to start looking at moving vans and all that kind of stuff. That was the moment.
nice, nice. Yeah, and, it's so like you guys had your tap room in DC for I believe I think your 4-year anniversary is either coming up or it just passed, right?
The 40th anniversary will be on Veterans Day weekend this year. Yeah. So
Okay,
we
awesome,
but
awesome.
yeah.
And so like just going on, so for the listeners out there who are maybe aspiring to open up their own brewery, or maybe they're in the process of now, can you kind of walk everybody through like how you went about like selecting your location? And we'll get more into like, because I think it's a great location, but yeah, like what was that process like just getting into like deciding, okay, like we're gonna put it here and it's gonna be, the brew house is gonna be this size, and like is there I guess for me, because I contract brew, is there some type of methodology for determining where like the right locations are? Or, like just, what was your perspective when you were searching?
Yeah, I mean, my take is it really depends on what someone's ultimately trying to do. So for us, one of the big things that we saw out in California that hadn't existed here in DC when we left, but DC did a tremendous. I mean, hats off to DC. It's got one of the greatest laws for brewing in the entire country. I mean, we can self-distribute, we can run tap rooms, our tap rooms can have tavern licenses. I mean, kudos. I mean, we went from being one of the hardest places to have a brewery to quickly being like one of the easiest places other than the cost. But law wise, legislation wise. But our thing is what we saw out in California that we hadn't seen back here on the East Coast, but obviously you see everywhere now, is more of this taproom focused model. We were seeing it out there with field work and other places like that, where they were opening up breweries and they weren't focused on distro. Distro was more the afterthought. The primary thought was serving the guest in your own house. And I loved that. And of course, my Anne, my wife, loved that because that's what she literally did for a living. And it was one of the things that I kind of missed a little bit while at Lagunitas. I got to the point where, I was, helping write some of the new recipes at Lagunitas and all that. But here I am trying to think of what an average guest would want out of a hazy IPA. And I didn't interact with the guests. I never spoke to the consumer. There was never a time that I'm sitting at a bar and hearing people tell me what they thought about this beer or that beer. I was back of house. I'm in a giant manufacturing plant far, far away from where everyone's actually drinking a beer. And I really wanted to be there with the people enjoying the product and to be able to interact with them directly and all of that. So for us, the taproom model and a focus was big. And so we wanted to be in an area in the city here where that was manageable, where people could walk here, get here, and not have to travel far. Whereas if it's distribution, then you're going to want size, you're going to want, a lot of space. We don't have a lot of space here. And so we, carefully thought about where in the city we wanted to be. Northeast DC is where my family's from. So I look out front of the brewery and I can see a building that's one block up, and that's where my grandma worked in the 1950s. It used to be the old.
Oh, wow.
It used to be the old Safeway offices, and yeah, she'd walk up here from. Basically, they live down on H Street, and she'd walk up here from H Street and then work at the Safeway building. But I can see where my grandma worked. The National Geographic building's 2 blocks away, and that's where my mom worked and all of that. So this is
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
you
this
really
is
are in your hood. Okay. I love it.
Yeah, again, we always wanted to come home was the big thing. California was great. And that's why, the Lost Generation branding, the idea that, Lost Generation writers just were, they wanted to go out, branch out and learn from all these great places like Paris and all of that. But then they always wanted to bring their works of art home. And that was kind of our thought too. So we went out to California to be inspired and to learn and to just really come into our own, but we wanted to come home. And so this is home for us. So we found a spot. It was this 120-year-old Nabisco factory. And we took it over. It's along this big walking path that's in DC called the MBT. It's great. You can just kind of bar crawl your way up through it. And so it allows the taproom model to really thrive here. And we do distro some, but over 80% of our product is sold here in house to our guests directly.
Yep. And so Jared mentioned that the brewery's by the MBT. That's the Metropolitan Branch Trail, which is a pretty cool kind of a bike trail that extends, northeast DC all the way up into parts of Montgomery County, I believe. And
they say Silver Spring. It gets a little hairy after you start getting out of DC, because then it's just kind of makeshift bike lanes. But yeah, it's a really good trail here in the city.
Awesome. Okay, so having location being right there is clutch. And I think it's actually become a neighborhood institution. Let's talk about the type of beers you guys sell and what's your thought process and what you're creating for that guest experience. I like the way your menu's set up. I noticed you have more of the lagers and European beers on the left. You transition into the IPAs, and then you always have some fun stuff on the other side of the menu. So, what's your inspiration for when you make the beers, and what do you want people to kind of like experience when they're at Lost Generation?
Yeah, I mean, our passion really it does fall with lagers and IPAs. I mean, obviously, my background is making a lot of IPA, and so that was always going to be a thing. But I mean, craft lagers is something that I just absolutely love. So we really wanted to do those things, but while we were building out Lost Generation, I had this wonderful chance to work with Greg Engert at Church Key, and he let me bartend for him for a while, and seeing how he puts together a beer menu, and then seeing how it applies for a wide array of guests, and not just singling out like, look, I'm sorry, we do this, and if that's not what you like, so be it, then go down the road. And instead, like, he's got a little something for everyone. And so we do try to sprinkle that in as well. So even though, I might be the most inspired by lagers and IPAs, and we have like, God, what we have 7 lagers and like 5 IPAs on right now. But we do have a fruited sour. And I think, it's delicious. I like it. It drinks like a mimosa. And we have a fruited seltzer. We offer shandies, and that way, there is a little bit more for something for everyone, to just make it a little more eclectic, especially on this bike trail. I mean, you get a crew of 20 just popping in occasionally, just doing the bar crawl. And in those 20 people, I mean, that's 20 different palates, 20 different desires and all of that. And, I don't want to all force them into, we like Tamave, so you have to like Tamave.
Right? Which yours is good. You got the shift and the grave shift. All right, awesome. So what we're gonna do is take a quick little break for a second, and then we're gonna get into some of DC beer culture. So we'll be right back after this message, and we'll pick up the conversation with Jared Pulliam from Lost Generation.
You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com. Today's episode is brought to you by StompStickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with StompStickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting StompStickers.com. As an industry-leading keg management partner, Keg Logistics delivers premium stainless steel kegs with the flexibility you truly need. Whether you're kegging your first batch or scaling your distribution, choose the program that fits. Rent to own, flexible term leasing, or pay per fill. Get top quality kegs without massive upfront costs and terms that grow with you. Thousands of brewers, cider makers, and wineries trust Keg Logistics to keep production flowing. Head to keglogistics.com/allaboutbeer for your custom quote. Keg Logistics, your kegs, your choice. Shopping for organic malt? There's no need to pay a premium for imports. Gambrinus Malting has your organic brewing needs covered with a full lineup of certified organic malts, including Organic Pilsner, Pale, Munich Light, and Wheat. Crafted in British Columbia from the finest North American barley and wheat, Gambrinus organic malts deliver the performance you expect at domestic prices. For the organic malt you need at a price that'll make you smile, the answer is simple. Order Gambrinus from RahrBSG.
Welcome back. Okay, so I'm here with Jared Pulliam of Lost Generation, who's running one of the best tap rooms in DC. We talked about earlier about how you started around 2011, and you said DC beer scene was just getting started, which I thought was always fascinating because I think we might have the youngest beer scene like in the country. When you look at
I
like
think it
places like
really
San
might be, man.
Diego, and yeah, we took a place like San Diego who are also, Portland, dense populations with deep, deep beer history. So, given that you're a part of, I guess, the history of DC, what do you want your legacy to be, or what do you want like Lost Generation to represent as far as
Oh
what
man.
it means for DC beer?
Oh, why are you trying to do that? Oh, Elliot, you're doing me wrong on that. I don't. In my legacy, I brew beer, man. No, so my biggest thing is like DC is my home. This is this is my town. This is where my family's from. This is where my friends are, etc. I always wanted DC to like, so when I grew up, this was a martini and red wine town. It was
Mhm.
steakhouses, politicos, and just that kind of thing. But there are real people that live here too, beyond just what you see on the news. Like, and but they didn't appreciate beer and they didn't know beer. And when I started loving beer, I just didn't see that love. There was only so few places that actually gave beer any representation here in the city. So few. And I wanted that to be better. And so my hope was that maybe one day I could open up something to help further that, push those chains further down the field and all of that. And I guess if I had a print, which I mean, that's I don't know. But yeah, if there would be anything, I would hope that, I helped maybe make one or two more craft beer consumers here in a town where craft beer was not a thing just 20 years ago for the most part. So, and I do think DC's coming around. We have a lot of craft beer bars now. We have a lot of breweries. I mean, again, in 2011, we had two breweries that opened up, and I mean, I think we got like 13 now. Which is small in comparison with a lot of towns, but tremendous when you think of, I mean, what this town was.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to see it too, man. Is a guy who like I didn't my first craft beer, I'll never forget this. It was DC Brow, Wings to Armageddon. And I never even had I
But
was
you never had a
drinking
craft beer, and you started with, I mean, what is that thing? Like
yeah,
8.5%
yeah,
double West
my
Coast IPA.
I went from drinking Natty Lights to Chimay to Wings of Armageddon. That was my like transition. I was in the imports because my neighbor unfortunately was, I guess, an alcoholic. He would drink like 18 beers a day. And so he would bring home,
Jesus.
he'd be outside drinking like Heinekens and like these Belgian beers or this Left Blonde and like West Mill. So
And,
I
and
kind
that's
of just
all.
started,
That's all you could get here in DC back
yeah.
when our brewery scenes first started. It was just Belgian beers. It was what beer you could find that was not domestic lager was Belgian, and so it was
Yeah.
interesting to see that transition. But yeah, Wings of Armageddon is a hefty one to start with, my man.
Yeah, I guess I burned myself out early. Yeah, I started off with that, and that's what kind of inspired me to start home brewing. Is I was like, oh, like we're making beer, like craft beer. I like visiting your brewery because to me, and I don't know, if this is maybe part of your educational background, but I feel like you're always like teaching people something when you put a beer on the menu. And I say that because I look at the different culture, like Kolsch, you have the Pilsners, you have the lagers, and like I've been there having to explain to people what a Kolsch meant, but I think it's really dope that you can have that wide array of different styles and iterate different versions of the beers every time you drop a new one. Like you had the like the Bohemian pills, you had the West Coast pills, you had the
Yeah,
traditional. Yeah, that's cool.
that's the nice thing about the taproom model is that because we're not locked into having to like worry about our skew at Safeway, we can we can pivot and constantly have new things available, which allows us to really have a wide array of different lager styles among other things, and we try to be pretty traditional when it comes to those. So we were so happy to like be able to do traditional Kolsch service where our crew goes around with the kranzes,
Mhm.
and dropping stangas everywhere. And things like that. But I mean, it's because we have that flexibility from having more of the taproom focused model. And it's so fun. So I can just constantly have something different. Like we just dropped a German Pilsner, but we also have an Italian Pilsner on, and and a slew of other lagers, and we can just do that however we wish.
Yeah, it's amazing. It also gives a chance for, again, like, to have like those experiences and be able to create different environments for the guests. Speaking of experiences, I gotta ask, I know we talked about this a couple days ago, but I heard you just had a pretty cool foreign experience representing our country somewhere.
I did.
Can you tell us more
I
about what that was like, and how, like, kind of your insight and like what you liked about the trip and all that? I
yeah.
know the fans
So
want to know.
recently, the Czech embassy reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you've been selected to go on a mission." Which normally, when I think of a mission, I think of some, something like more religious and all that. And I guess in some ways this was, but it was
All
definitely
right.
more of like the Blues Brothers, like going on a bender of a night. Um, but yeah, they selected me for a mission. It was like the Czech embassy wanted to show me the Czech Republic, and they really liked that we kind of really took to making a proper Czech program here. So we have always a light and a dark um, uh, beer or lager on side pool, and we do the full with everything from a hladinka to a schneet to malikos and all that. So we offer the guests the entire array, and they wanted to show me their country. And honestly, I have not gotten to see much of Europe, and even though I love obviously amazing lagers and I love making Czech beers and German beers. And I got to go out there. I actually got to go out there with one of the journalists that got to go was an All About Beer contributor, Don. So shout out to
Awesome.
Don. And we went around the country. They were the best hosts. I cannot speak more kindly to just how the Czech people just treated us kinder than we probably deserved to be treated. I don't know. I felt weird about it at times. I was like, man, you're being way too nice to me. Like, but yeah, they took us around, they showed us their home, and they wanted us to feel like it was our home too. And I mean, it really truly inspired me. So we're actually next week, I was finally able to procure some of the ingredients of some of the farms that we went to and some of the products that we actually got to see firsthand. And we'll be making a Czech pale lager next week
Oh,
using
sweet.
some of those ingredients. It'll be out in like September. And then our yearly Czech dark lager will be coming out soon after that. But yeah, no, it was a mind blowing experience, man. I've the history, the culture. I've never seen a place that old, dude. It was
Yeah, like,
like
what's it look like?
I mean, here in the United
I've never
States, like
been.
when we think of old, it's like you got Independence Hall in like Philadelphia, and it's like,
Hmm.
man, that's an old building. And over there, it's like the dress shop is in a building that makes Independence Hall look like a brand new remodel.
Yeah.
It's just everything is just so. It was amazing. It was really awe inspiring, and to see just how dedicated they are to beer and being able to go into the cellars and seeing that they're still keeping some of the traditions, well, not some, like a lot of the traditions of their beer making, while still modernizing as one needs to. But it was just it was it really I don't have kinder words. It was really a kind of a life altering experience. So
Yeah, that's
very
dope,
cool.
man. When you told me you're going, I was like, that's so fucking sick. So do they have like craft culture out there? Or do they make like craft beers, or is it all pretty much
They do.
traditional?
Yeah,
Interesting.
no, the craft culture. In what little time I've spent in Europe, I did see that craft culture is kind of becoming more there. So, like when I was in Spain, I did see that. But here, when I was in, the Czech Republic, obviously, it is very traditional still. I mean, extremely traditional. But that said, um, they did have breweries that were, kind of going into that foray of craft and, making hazy IPAs with only Czech hops and stuff like that. And it was remarkable to see, and just see how they're kind of, learning to, they were so like, we would go to these breweries and, this one brewmaster, took to me for whatever reason. I don't know, probably because I was the old guy, but, he took me around. He wanted me to taste all of his beers, but yeah, he wanted me to taste all of his new world beers. Like, so he was basically just pouring me IPAs and his sours and, all of his new school styles. But it was cool to see that, they were also adhering to these, cool new styles, as well as, I mean, he was creating triple decocted, Czech beers as well. So he was creating traditional styles while also embracing new school styles. So interesting to see.
Yeah, very interesting. I actually got a chance to go to Spain last year. We were at the Barcelona Beer Festival, and I noticed that same thing. I was kind of going around, and there's a pretty cool brewery called Garage Beer out there. Not the one
They
like
have
we
a
have.
garage beer too.
Yeah, and no knock to the garage guys in America, but the garage guys in Spain are crushing it. Yeah, but
I
they
don't know.
have
The
like
garage guys here, one of them's married to a billionaire. So, I mean,
yeah, right. So
good
that
for them.
might
Yeah.
maybe they should do a collab. They got a merge. Talk to talk to garage. You can hear this. You guys talk to each other. But yeah, but they make they specialize in like these hazies. And I noticed that like to me it seemed like they were just getting into that over there with the other
No, for
breweries trying
sure.
to some of the mixed firm stuff, and like that's what we do here really well. So it's good to see that influence and how it's kind of like reaching different parts of the globe.
Yeah, I almost feel guilty because like we're giving them hazy IPAs and they gave us these amazing traditional lagers, and that's our cultural exchange. It's like, but I mean,
Yeah.
like that said, I mean, like again, I'm all about like everybody getting to enjoy beer, and so maybe some people don't want a Pilsner or Kel and they want a hazy IPA, and I'm glad that maybe now someone that goes to these Czech breweries get to have a little bit of a nuance, and they'll drink beer as opposed to maybe they would opt not to.
Yep. Yep. I love it. Cool, man. Well, look, bro, it's been a great conversation talking to you, man. Where can we find you? Like, do you have Instagram, like a website? Like, where if we want to learn more about Lost Gen, where do we go?
Yeah. So Instagram at Lost Gen Brewing, LOSTGEN Brewing. Online, lostgenbrewing.com. Those would be the places. We do a new beer drop every week, basically, and we always put those up on Instagram. Make sure that we try to keep the content as fresh as could be. I mean, you are a very good content creator, sir. So we
Thank
aspire
you.
to be as good as you. I don't think we can be, but
I don't think I'm that good, but I appreciate that, man. Thank you. They
you,
tell me I should be making more content. I'm like, really? Like,
you're pretty good. You're out there always cheesing for the gram, man.
yeah, I live on Instagram. Unfortunately, I might have an addiction. I'm on there every day, so maybe I'm just part of the machine. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. And pretty cool. Jared will be back on the next episode of the show, and he'll be the host, having a conversation with the brewer of his choosing. And that's going to air next week. So make sure you tune in for that. And remember, visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I'm Elliott Johnson again, CEO and co-founder of Soul Mega, and thank you for listening to my version of the Brewer to Brewer podcast.
Shopping for organic malt? There's no need to pay a premium for imports. Gambrinus Malting has your organic brewing needs covered with a full lineup of certified organic malts, including Organic Pilsner, Pale, Munich Light, and Wheat. Crafted in British Columbia from the finest North American barley and wheat, Gambrinus organic malts deliver the performance you expect at domestic prices. For the organic malt you need at a price that'll make you smile, the answer is simple. Order Gambrinus from RahrBSG. Today's episode is brought to you by StompStickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with stompstickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting stompstickers.com. As an industry-leading keg management partner, Keg Logistics delivers premium stainless steel kegs with the flexibility you truly need. Whether you're kegging your first batch or scaling your distribution, choose the program that fits. Rent to own, flexible term leasing, or pay per fill. Get top quality kegs without massive upfront costs and terms that grow with you. Thousands of brewers, cider makers, and wineries trust Keg Logistics to keep production flowing. Head to keglogistics.com/allaboutbeer for your custom quote. Keg Logistics, your kegs, your choice. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.